this. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran, and I got a great guest for you today. We'll introduce him in just a second, but I want to, of course, say good morning to my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good morning, Todd. Good morning to everyone tuning in. It's great to be here, a sunny day in Seattle.
You know, we've been suffering here in Honolulu for the past 2 weeks with no trade winds, and when there's no trade winds in Hawaii, the humidity just comes up and up and up and up. But I am very happy this morning. I woke up and I'm like, the humidity's gone. And I'm like, yes, the trade winds are back. You know, it's kind of weird because it brings the temperature down about 6-7 degrees and it just changes everything here. Makes Hawaii what Hawaii is, you know. So anyway, cool.
Yeah, Todd, I'll take a little bit of that heat here because it's like in the 30s here. So
well, I'm sitting here in shorts and no shoes, so you just be happy. And of course, I want to introduce our guest this morning. Good morning. We've got Philip Nelson from Newtek, and you're sitting in Vegas. So
yeah, I'm enjoying a rainy Las Vegas afternoon, or morning.
You know, and when it rains in Vegas, it's just kind of like, ugh.
It floods in Vegas. When it rains, it floods. That's basically what we've been experiencing this week in Vegas.
Well, I hope it gets out of it. I hope it gets it out of its system because, and just hearing about, oh my gosh, what is it? 5 weeks, 6 weeks, or something. I load the crew up and we go to Vegas for CES, and that thing is just sneaking up faster than anything. But you know. And maybe that's where we could actually start out and talk a little bit this morning about the live broadcast space. In days of old, when if you're going to do live, especially maybe not in the past 5 or 6 years, but let's say 10 years ago, if you're going to do live internet broadcast at a show like CES, you'd have to roll in there with 50 people, a satellite truck, maybe have to have internet dropped in. It just wasn't done. But now, we just put stuff in a FedEx box and, ship it out there, and we're up and have a full-fledged broadcast studio. It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
It's Newtek really, empowered this desktop video revolution back in the 90s when we started the video toaster. And then in 2005, when the TriCaster came out, we took live video, desktop video revolution to internet television, and now, like you said, with a couple of FedEx boxes, you have a television studio in Vegas for CES.
And I think it should go without saying that Newtek was really, and for those of you that aren't familiar with Newtek, make sure you get over to newtek.com and we'll be talking about their product offerings here in a little bit, but. You guys really led the way. There was nobody else, that was really providing. Well, there was other people for $500,000, but
billion. The owner of Newtek. I don't know if you know Tim Jennison, but he has a quote from 1985. And to put this into perspective, in 1985, the computer, it was the Mac was black and white, right? The Windows was 8 or 16 colors, and no one knew what the internet was. So in 1985, Tim Jennison's quote is, "In the next 20 years, your favorite television show will be made by you or someone you know." And that's where we are. I mean, anybody can do this now. And, the people that are good rise to the top, and bad shows don't.
And even if you have a bad show, you can still do it.
You can do it. You just may not have an audience.
That's right. And it really doesn't matter. But the main thing is the cost has just came down. Little did I know when I started doing an audio show in 2004. We did a bunch of. I think I did audio only for maybe the first 5 years, and then kind of said, well, let's experiment with the video side, and I'm not things to do anything lightly, and I jumped in with with both feet in a big way, and I think what was the first machine that I bought was the first 800 series. No, it was a TriCaster Studio, I think, is what I started with, and then I have upgraded through the years as new gear has come out. But
nice.
so it, kind of, you just grow with the company, and that's one thing I love about Newtek as well is they really take care of their customers. Once you're in the ecosystem, the upgrade path is, beyond favorable, from upgrades that are, incredible trade-in values to, software updates. This latest update this year gave a whole bunch of brand new functionality. I mean, an incredible amount of new functionality for a small price. So from a loyalty standpoint, they take care of their customers away. So I'll wait a little while here, Philip, before we get into the full details of all the gear. But, from your perspective, you've seen this thing grow. Where do you think, and we know sports is huge, but from you guys' standpoint, where's the biggest concentration of folks doing live to internet broadcast right now?
It's so hard to boil it down into one little bullet. Sports is just explosive because fans of whatever school can't get enough of their team. So, St. John's University or the Horizon League or the Patriot League, there's an unlimited amount of content that can be created there. Also, we're seeing a lot of radio stations taking their shows live to the web video. Newspapers. I mean, it's all over the place. It's really hard to just boil it down into one area that is going to be the hot growth area.
It's kind of laughing. You would think that a radio station would, have full production facility because, it's the adage that I remember is back in the day, some of the talking heads, they always had like a single camera pointed at them, and they may have streamed something that was pretty rudimentary on live. So radio stations are going full production now with everything, huh? So they're almost.
You look at Kid Craddock. I mean, the morning shows or Glenn Beck. I mean, yep. Glenn Beck left Fox News, number one show on Fox News, right, or number two maybe behind Bill O'Reilly, and left broadcast television and went straight to the web with his own shows, and he's making a fortune. So you see, people like Rush Limbaugh and, there are various talk radio guys, which they build this rabid fan base. Then you also have people like music stations where they'll do live performances in the studio. But what's really interesting about radio, two industries to kind of compare, the newspaper industry and radio. Radio survived the invention of television. Back in the day, radio was everything. Then TV comes around, and instead of it being soap operas and drama, they reinvented themselves and survived. And so it actually is kind of interesting to see radio being an early adopter and kind of reinventing itself as part of the internet television revolution. And you compare it to newspapers, where they really tried not to change. They kind of kept their foothold on classified advertising and movie ads and things like that, and they didn't adapt. And you see the problems that industry is having. So it's kind of interesting to compare those two media industries and see how one adapted early and one was a little too late.
You look at what radio's doing. I think they sell the handwriting on the wall. They've got Clear Channel has their iHeartRadio app. And so now you can really listen to almost any Clear Channel station across the country, no matter where you're at. If you want to listen to New York show, you can listen to that. You want to listen to L.A., or if you want to listen to your hometown, you can probably do that as well. So I think they've kind of figured it out, and are they're working to make sure that they stay relevant. And then you've probably got this whole class of users as well. It's kind of like me. It's a small independent content creator that are, right. It's we don't necessarily get a big audience on this particular show on a Saturday morning, but the thing that for me, as I've always said, is the live really basically turns into recorded, which then is on demand. And that's where, for me, it was always made sense. If you're going to do video, I said, might as well be live. You become a better content creator because you're forced to be prepared, not make mistakes. Yep. And if you make mistakes, you can't fix it unless you want to go through major pain. And then once it was done, you had an end product ready to put on the internet. So for me, Live always made sense just from the simple fact of, I got a recording out of it, and I was able to put it up and distribute.
One of the benefits of live that's kind of cool is, sometimes when you do a live show, your bigger audience comes from the on-demand, but your fanatical audience comes during that live show.
Yeah.
So, having that, I don't know if you heard the concept of the idea virus, but the sneezers, the people that are going to go out and watch the show and then get excited and tell their friends and share that on-demand clip, that's where some of the magic really happens, is that discussion that goes on in the live chat rooms and building the community and building a loyal fan base. And then those people are your marketing arm for the on-demand content.
Rob, you've seen this whole thing evolve, from the beginning, and you're a radio guy to begin with, and internet based as well. But where's your thoughts coming in on the live web stuff?
Well, I think it's kind of two things that are going on, but really mainly what created this whole revolution that we're seeing now and the change of the media landscape came from microcasting. And I know that's not necessarily a commonly used term, but I think it really encapsulates what we're talking about here, is where this came from. It came from guys like you, Todd, or shows that I did, or those kind of things back in the early days of this that really plowed the way that we're now seeing kind of the larger media folks starting to realize that there is a great opportunity here, and it's being adopted. But it was really pioneered by people that were working out of their garage or in their basements or whatever, that were trying things out. And there was so much experimentation that have gone on over the last 10 years that has gotten to where we are today. And it's really pushed the envelope. And like what we're seeing in the news right now about Yahoo going around and recruiting a lot of big TV talent now because they want to create an online broadcast network with great content. And I think that the conversation, we've kind of reached this point where the technology is good enough to do all this stuff, and the TriCaster pioneered that whole part as well, is to get live broadcasting and the on-demand piece at a quality level that is acceptable to TV viewers. And there's this parity that's going on. And I think that we're going to see this shift kind of move even faster. The online kind of TV and radio stuff is going to start taking over. It's going to be a while because broadcast TV is still, a big player in the space now. But I think over time the online piece is going to really start to compete with that. But it may take a few more years before it gets there. But you can start to see the early kind of movement of the bigger companies and even the upstart companies. And I would consider Yahoo to be an upstart company in this area, though they've been in media for a long time. I think we're reaching a tipping point. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Go ahead, Philip.
I have 4 kids. And my kids are, I use them as test subjects. And it's interesting, I look at the main screen as being television, and then I go for the most convenient screen. But, I always try to watch the biggest available screen. But my kids don't. My kids actually, they go first to the iPad. They go to the iPod, and and then they may go turn on the television if they can't find it online. And so, that's when the real tipping point will happen is just when those kids get older and they're the ones spending the money. My dad, my grandparents would listen to the radio first. Then they moved to television after many, many years. And so it's interesting to see the younger generation. They don't really care about television as much from what I can see.
Oh, my 21-year-old, she doesn't have a TV. Her TV's her tablet or her laptop or, whatever piece of glass she has in front of her. But it's, I think maybe she'll watch her parents.
One of the joys of live, I'm in a hotel room and the housekeeping is coming in. Let me go tell them to stop. Hold on just a sec.
That's always one of those challenges of being, this is the beauty too of live webcasts. It's just the way it is.
it's real.
Yes.
It's live, and that's what life is all about, right? So, have you been following the news about all the moves that Yahoo's making to recruit TV talent?
No, I'm going to have to get up to speed on that.
Yeah. So, David Pogue has decided he's going to go to Yahoo. It was just announced that Katie Couric is going to have a show on the front page of Yahoo.
You know what's interesting is, Rob, on that with Yahoo going after talent is, every time I go to NAB or any other type of media show and they find out that I have a connection with content creators, it's automatically, can we get your content? There's this huge, I mean, it's, every week through my position at Raw Voice, I get maybe 4 or 5, and it's a lot of it's now is international, wanting syndication, redistribution rights. It's kind of an interesting thing. We're going to these discussions about taking the content to another country, and then you're always like, okay, so what's the let's see the do re mi, and then we don't have no money. You're like, no. You want the content. And you want to work with this, there has to be some sort of a model, that we're going to use to monetize, because it's not necessarily, it costs money to do this stuff, and even though it costs a lot less, people still have to eat. So,
Todd, it's all about the distribution. That's where the value is, right?
Okay, well, and distribution goes so far, but
yeah, it does. Yeah.
Are you guys, Rob, as you continue to talk about the Yahoo thing, you look at what Netflix has done and HBO, and they're all doing their own deals for content. I'm even getting recruited by YouTube networks, and I kind of laugh because my YouTube presence is not that big. It's all in the podcasting space, and I'm like, so I go over and look at that, the network that's trying to recruit me. I'm like, you guys need to grow a little bit. So it is interesting that there's this huge demand right now for content. It's just like the people can't get enough of it. Are you guys, what are you guys seeing on that front at all, or do you get into that at all, Philip?
There is an unbelievable demand for content, whether it's traditional linear broadcast or web. And that's why we have 300 cable channels.
Right.
Have you read the book The Long Tail? Are y'all familiar with that?
Yep.
That's where we are. I mean, it's not one size fits all. So with budgets to create content dropping so substantially, now you can create a show that, if you do a traditional broadcast show, if you don't have millions of viewers, it's a failure. Mm-hmm. You do a show on the web and you have thousands of viewers, it can be a smash success, depending on, the type of content and your budget to create it. So, I think the insatiable demand is for content that's meaningful to people. It's not just having to accept whatever the networks throw at us and learn to like it. It's watching what you really want to watch now. The viewer has the power.
Right. And I think it's, what's cool for me, and I watch what happens in my own household, because I got the same type of test bed you do. I've got it from 9 years old to 23. And, you just see the deltas between even those age groups and how they're consuming content. And, for my kids, to them, they go to just different devices. And it might be the Xbox One for something, or the Xbox, or the iPad. And it all really depends, and they're getting their media everywhere. And that's got to scare the living crap out of the multi-billion-dollar broadcast industry. But, I'm confident, they're not stupid. They're going to shift. They have to shift. But the question is, can their model survive on a web scale where they're actually truly measured, and the metrics for monetization are, quite frankly, less incentive to be online than they are to be broadcast?
I think all the networks are I don't know if they're necessarily scared, but they are all figuring out their strategy. Look at how people like HBO, they're delivering content through HBO Go, or you look at the iHeartRadio app, where they're, instead of fighting against people that want to listen to music online, they're actually giving them a tool. You look at ESPN3, where games that may not be big enough for linear television now have a home on an official ESPN network, even though it's on the web, and fans watch it.
Yeah, it's true. So let's talk just a little bit. I've been obviously started in the podcasting space, and so a lot of times I'm talking with folks that are doing serialized content, and it's even true with this show or even my other show. We go along. We're a long show. We're not something designed for YouTube. Oftentimes, the listening audience is bigger than the viewing audience, which you would suspect. But
right.
What do you think the secret formula is to, if someone's doing a webcast, based on your experience, where are you seeing is it a 15-minute show with lots of action, with lots of graphics? Where's the sweet spot these days for someone that's going to do live?
The funny thing is, I think the sweet spot is have something that's interesting. And we live in a television world, so your show does need to look like broadcast television, but a good-looking show is not the secret to success, and length of the show is not necessarily the secret to success. Some people say, I want to do a 5-minute whatever, I want to do an 8-minute, or I want to do a 15-minute. Just make it the appropriate length to tell your story, and that's the beauty of the web, is you don't have to fit into that blocked window of linear television where it was a hard stop at 29:30.
Right.
If it's something interesting and you want to keep going, you can. One of the guys that was actually, a lot of people don't realize this, but he was a pioneer of web talk shows, and that's Tom Green.
Yep.
Years ago, he did a show called Live from Tom Green's House, where he basically got Newtek gear, set it up in his one of his bedrooms, ran cameras into the living room, and did a live talk show, I think 5 days a week from his living room. So he would invite in, Tony Hawk or Henry Rollins or Kat Von D, and they would just have a talk show, but Tom was actually in his living room. He took his couch out, put a desk in. Yeah. And, one of the things that was cool is if the interview was kind of boring, the shows were short. But there were times where he went an hour over because guess what? It was awesome. And that's the beauty of the web, is you just make it as long as it needs to be.
So how long have you been with Newtek then? Have you been there from the beginning, or when did you come into the company?
It's funny. I was a customer from the beginning. I bought a video toaster in 1990. Didn't realize I was a young kid wanting to start a television production company, and knew that you should be able to do titles on a computer and not have to spend all this money. I didn't realize that the video toaster was so new. I bought it the first month it came out, but I didn't know. I thought it had been around for a while. The ignorance is bliss, And so I've been at Newtek 17 years now. I came in '98, and after I had my production company, I sold that, and I was such a fanatic for Newtek and how it empowered me to be successful. There was no other place on the planet that I wanted to work. So I basically bugged Newtek like 3 times a week until they finally gave me an interview and then hired me that day.
What's interesting about the whole space, and this is something that I've been going to NAB now about 5 years, and I obviously visit you guys in the booth, see what you're doing, seeing what the new announcements are. But one thing is always just absolutely, it's you're like this small. Actually, you're not even a fish. You're a guppy, a minnow. From a guy that's an online guy, you're a minnow amongst sharks, because you go into the booths and they are literally multi-million-dollar booths. They've spent 50% of their marketing budget. They have incredible layout, sets, cameras, and your drool factor gets on because you're seeing all this cool stuff. Mm-hmm. And as you walk the floor, you see a software solution that is like, oh my God, I got to have that. That fits into my production. That would be perfect. And you walk into the booth and you're talking to them, and well, how much is it? And that's probably something people don't ask at the show, because you always get these surprised looks, and he goes, oh, that's $182,000. And you're like, you pass out on the floor.
Right.
So, that was 5 years ago. Last year was probably the first year I started to, you go into a vendor. What have you got for people that are doing web content? And that's too high. It's outside the budget of, the people we're going to reach. But now, like there was a couple of solutions last year that had come down considerably, under $10,000 that, someone serious might be able to fit into a budget. And I know that there's a couple of companies working with Newtek right now that are getting ready to release a Chiron generator that is going to be, I'm thinking, around $2,500 when it's a company out of Europe, and I actually have been beta testing it. So, people just don't realize that, you see ESPN and all those beautiful graphics that come in, and, the TriCaster will do a lot of that if you have the time to set up and get the overlays right and everything. But there's just certain things that third-party software will do that just takes it to the whole nother level. The price finally, I think, is coming down. And for me, I just can't wait, because I think it's just going to add that much more of a production level to what we're already able and capable of doing. What's been your experience going to NAB over the years? And I kind of like to hear your perspective as when you guys first went to now. How do the big boys in the space look upon Newtek that really, for a better word, has grown up and come up with this, world class, the TriCaster 8000 is an incredible machine. All the other machines are great as well, but what's been your experience at events like that?
When Newtek first started going to NAB, and that was before my time, but I was a customer. Tim wanted to be disruptive. He wanted to democratize television and allow anybody that wanted to make television, regardless of your budget, to have the power to make something that looks like true broadcast television. And, the landscape of NAB's changed, because it used to be a land of suits.
Yep.
And Newtek was this wild bunch of crazy programmers and, geniuses that were changing everything. And now the pendulum swung, and everybody's now a cool company, and everybody's, outside the box thinkers. And, Newtek has always been true to ourselves and just remained consistent. And, our goal is to be disruptive. We're a disruptive company, whether it's the video toaster or the TriCaster or even Lightwave 3D. It's really, it always goes back to, you have to look like television. It needs to be that quality and the production value that $1 million truck could give you for a fraction of that cost. And it is nice to see, other people trying to get into that market, and, and it's good. I mean, everybody innovates, and we're the leader. We know now, we used to be the one that would be disruptive and, kind of a rebel alliance. Now we are the industry leader. A study came out last year, not that, TriCaster's way more than a production switcher, right?
Right.
But they did a survey of production switchers, and we are the #1 production switcher on the market now, beating Sony and Panasonic, which that's unbelievable. And that shows the level of disruption that we've had in the business. And so all of these old school companies are having to look at, they reevaluate their price points. And, it's like when Lightwave came out, 3D animation was $30,000 to $50,000. Now everybody's affordable, and Newtek's the reason that happened. So, that's really Tim's idea, is we disrupt, we change the market, and people get empowered to get creative and tell stories.
I think what really attracted me is my philosophy has always been from day one, is even when I started doing the audio show, the first 10 or so episodes were really not done on, it was basically a LabTech headset from Walmart. And I'm not saying that was wrong. It was right, because the audience exploded immediately, and it didn't matter what gear I was using. But that was the early days. So then my goal was, and my thought process was, an investment was that I have a family. I have, at the time I had a job. So I had to be very, very efficient with my time. I had to be able to sit down, hit record, get done, post-process. I wanted to be done. I didn't want to spend hours of editing. And some people get wrapped around the axle and do that, and most of those shows today don't exist. I know some people still edit and good for them. That's their choice. I'll never do it. But for me, when I was looking at the solution to go with the live video stuff, for me, the simple thought of having this small box with a basic switcher, which would do lower thirds, and the basic stuff I needed in the beginning, I thought, perfect. This is what I want. I want something where my workflow is just going to be fast. It's not going to the audio. I don't want to be slowed down. I want to walk out of the studio and go to bed at the same time I do when I'm doing my normal show. And when I made the investment, which was not a necessarily small investment to begin with, I think I spent maybe, actually, the first unit I bought was a floor unit, not a floor unit, but it was a dealer unit.
Oh, wow.
The guy was, it was right during a transition time. So I got a dealer unit, and like 2 weeks later, you guys announced something new. So I had transferred the registration, and of course I'm like, shit, I missed the new stuff, and so I called sales, and they said, oh yeah, you can upgrade. And I'm like, well, how much is the upgrade? And they told me, and like within a month I went from a dealer unit to brand new, fresh out of the box, and I'm like stoked. I'm like, yes. But what really sold me was that hit record, I got done, I would hit stop, I'd do the video audio rendering, start the video process. I would do what I had to do the ins and outs, start the rendering, and then by the time I got done doing my show notes, Adobe Premiere would go ding. It would say, hey, your encode's ready, and I could drop that into an upload, and and I walked out of the studio at the same exact time that I walked out doing audio only. And for me, it was like, da-da! I don't have to, it didn't change my production process. So for me, that was the number one reason, is I wanted to be able to walk. And some people don't have different reasons for that. But for me, it was all about, not spending an extra 2 hours in the studio and having my wife be pissed off.
Happy wife makes things good.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I was wondering, as we look at the landscape of today, and the TriCaster, and there's been an explosion of other types of similar type of devices out there. What do you guys think is the kind of the next frontier of this stuff? Is it? I mean, obviously, technology right now for most, the phones, the tablets, and everything is kind of it's kind of a rolling kind of improvement kind of thing. But is there anything that the media companies, do you think, are striving for here over the next couple of years that will be a significant leap forward in capability? Is there some unmet need out there from the audience perspective and from a content production side that has still yet to be tapped yet, that could really make for a much better kind of viewer experience as well as content provider experience? Is it better monetization tools? Is it better ways to mid-roll? Is it better ways to communicate with your audience and get your audience engaged? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is helping people make money on the web.
Yeah.
And that's, especially the smaller content creators, where, you have someone like, NBC or NBC, they have salespeople already. And with radio, kind of going back to them, one of the reasons that radio, some of the guys at CBS Radio said that they adopted video is they said they're sold out of their linear inventory. So if you're a radio show and you sold all your blocks, how do you create more product to sell? So web was a way to double their sellable inventory. And, those networks have salespeople. So they're out there selling, whether it's a sponsorship for a traditional show or web content. But where I think the real opportunity is whoever figures out how to help the small content creators make money, and not $5 a month. Right. But make a career, and whoever figures that out is going to be the Ted Turner of this generation.
Yeah, and you know, here's the interesting thing is that the digital media buyers, they're brutal. They really are. And you know, they've got the ability to work one against the other, and then they can really squeeze people real tightly from a revenue standpoint. And too many people are willing to, and I hate to say it, it's this blogger notion that they will sell their soul for a $5 cup of coffee. And you know, I've had to walk away this year alone from maybe 4 or 5 deals just because the media buyer got so greedy that it just wasn't worth it. And not only not worth it, it was just like, please, are you really valuing my content so low, or my producer's content so low that you would pay this much? But when they can go out and they can buy YouTube for, you know, $6 CPM, you know, makes a lot more sense on a spreadsheet when they have to pay, you know, one of my producers a much higher CPM. But at the same time, we all know that they're probably not. Well, we know they're not getting the same engagement level. It really is. It is challenging, and it's a little bit concerning that I think media buyers smell blood in the water a little bit, and are willing to be very aggressive in working one against the other and getting the best pricing. You can't blame them, you know, for that, because they're trying to get their clients the best value. But well, at the same hand, the digital folks that bought at this low level, look at what they're spending for TV. And I'm thinking to myself, and they're not measured. There's no, you know, there's no performance standard, because it's, you know, it's broad based, and you know, maybe they measure engagement or whatever, but it just digital's
Todd. It's the same thing with broadcast radio too. It's still a $16 billion ad business, right? So
but radio's local. Radio's you know, definitely.
Well, it is, yeah. But I think that if you look at kind of the economics of this stuff, the money is still going into areas that are not trackable. Really, there's no direct metrics that the advertiser gets out of it. Sure, they can see maybe some results, but there isn't really any direct feedback. But when these buyers and people look at the web and the internet and the digital distribution side, they look at it through the lens of sponsored links. You know, it's like this direct response medium is what they expect.
Yep.
Though it's very similar to broadcast. I mean, it's still a branding, you know, experience. That's what podcasts are. Podcasts aren't necessarily a direct response medium, but yet the digital buyers, and I know you've talked about this a lot, they expect the same thing that they would get from Google when they buy a sponsored link, and it's not matching up.
Right. And you guys get that deep into the discussion, Philip, at all, or does that you know, I know that you're a musician, and you know you're doing a lot of stuff in the music space. There's probably some similarities, but because a musician seems like they're always, you know, unless you've hit it big, they're always struggling.
Yeah.
You know, like on the music thing, you know, if I was trying to go sell CDs, I probably wouldn't do very well. But I did a Kickstarter, and I got people that support me to do way more than buy a CD.
Right.
You know, instead of selling them a $10 CD, people are kicking in $25, $50, $100 because they support. And really, I think, you know, that's an idea to take to internet television. Instead of trying to think of it in the old school terms of buy an ad for me for this value, I look at it as more as you're an underwriter or an endorser or a patron, where you find that core audience that really values what they do, and hopefully they value it enough to actually give you some money to help sustain it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
now,
that's right.
The big networks aren't going to do that, but I mean, as an independent content creator, to me, that's the way to go. I mean, you look at, you know, there's comic books on Kickstarter getting funded for $100,000 or technologies, you know, so you just find a way to engage that core fan base and let them understand that you need to be, you need help underwriting what they love.
In the end, though, Rob, it still comes back to the content. if the content sucks.
Yeah, you're not going to get that support. But I did hear a rumor online that there's a new service that's coming out, and this kind of points a little bit back to more podcasting stuff. But that there is a service that's going to launch that's going to link up some sort of a donation system with each show. So like, as a content provider pushes out a new show, there's also a link to a donation that rides along with that, somehow in an app or something like that. I wasn't clear on what the experience was, but this concept of almost being listener supported. Now I know that donations for podcasts been around for a long time, but it's always been kind of separate from the content and kind of separately done and all this kind of stuff. But to link up the episode with some sort of a donation from the audience, whether it's 50 cents but it's not required, right? It's just like it's just making it more available for people to do that, right? It's kind of an interesting idea. It's kind of a blend of this donation model and this transaction model. I don't know what you guys think about whether or not that might be a solution. I'm not sure yet either, but it sounds like an interesting idea.
In the music business, independent artists are trying to find ways to make money. And there was a company that I actually talked to recently called Sensei. I think it's Cinsay. I'm not sure. But they have technology that, a band makes a music video, and what does the band want out of that music video? They want to sell CDs or sell MP3 downloads or T-shirts or whatever. And so what this app did, in the old way that it's done, is you go to YouTube, you watch a music video, and then you hope that they see your link and you hope that they get to your website. But the Sensei technology actually, it's embedded into the video with clickable links to during the video, without them relieving the engagement of the music video. They can buy this song, buy a T-shirt, buy whatever the artist is wearing in the video or whatever. So creative ways for people to monetize content. It's I guess that's where it's got to go, because you have this revolution of internet television, but everybody's still trying to apply the same workflow of making money to a new medium instead of trying to come up with a new way to sell it and make money.
Yeah.
And, I think the embedded part we're all pretty spontaneous. We've all been at a store and said, oh, look at that, and grab it and buy it. And people are, impulsive like that. And I think impulsive donations probably would help the space a great deal as well. I want to kind of switch back here a little bit to talk about, the Newtek product line.
I would love that.
Let me bring back the website. I'll just flip the website up on live here so folks can see it. It's at newtek.com, newtek.com. So, the product line is expanded. Expanded and shrunk, but you guys have done a lot of you got this monster beautiful TriCaster 8000, but really there's a lot of folks out there that don't necessarily need a TriCaster 8000. They can get started relatively inexpensively with a TriCaster 40. Why don't you talk a little bit about the 40?
Well, the concept with Newtek when we came out with the TriCaster was to create a live television truck in a box, make live TV portable, make it easy, and as the product grew, the price went up. And, as we added capabilities, that cost money to develop, so the price went up. And it's really exciting for us to really get back to our roots, where now we have an entire family of TriCasters that can allow you to pick which TriCaster is right for you. Whether it's the 8000 with the high-end broadcast integration and more, television, level infrastructure, or all the way down to the 40, which is still insanely powerful for the money, and it is a self-contained turnkey system. Unlike a lot of the competitors that are starting to appear, where they'll sell you a card and sell you software, and you have to buy a computer and you have to still piece everything together and hope it works right. A TriCaster is more of an appliance type technology, where you buy a TriCaster, plug in a monitor, plug in some cameras, plug in some mics, and you have a show. And so I was super excited about the TriCaster 40 because it allowed us to get back to our roots, where price isn't going to keep people out anymore. Turnkey. It's around 6K, and and that's plug and play TriCaster with all of the things we've learned over the years. Doing live television, all rolled into that one little system, and it is extremely powerful.
And what I think is important for folks to know is that even though there are some features that aren't available in the 40 that are available in the higher models, the workflow and the interface is virtually exactly the same. And as you go up in systems, basically the full interface doesn't change. So a person that is basically trained on or learns how to use a TriCaster 40 in about 10 minutes can really move into the higher level units very, very quickly with little adoption time. When we go to Vegas, some of our team members only come together once a year. And my TriCaster operator, he flies out of Dallas and comes in, and he basically hasn't touched the machine in a year. And, he basically sits down, and in about an hour, he's up to speed with the new updates, and we're ready to go live. It's really from a user standpoint, it's very, I guess for better words, it's an easy system to use, but at the same time, holy crap, the power under the hood is really amazing.
When we designed TriCaster, it was launched in 2005. There were three things we were trying to do. We wanted to make television portable, affordable, and easy to use and easy to do. And if we just wanted to make a portable and affordable system, that's not crazy difficult. If we wanted to make something that was easy to use and portable, that's not as hard. But when you're trying to do all three, or you want it to be powerful enough so that broadcasters would use it, easy enough that fifth graders can learn it, that's where the magic really came in, and the workflow that Newtek has developed has allowed so many people that weren't television producers to now become television producers. The same TriCaster that's being used in the NBA is being used by middle school here in Vegas, and these kids are producing a daily newscast. And as you said, creating a career in video, you could have an affordable TriCaster, learn the workflow, and then get a job working on a $30,000 TriCaster and basically step in with about half an hour of familiarizing yourself with the new system, be ready to make money.
You guys know, and what's interesting is last couple weeks ago we had Callie Lewis on, and when Callie goes to like trade shows and stuff, I've seen her and her team roll in with a couple of basically checked luggage bags, and they are they set up and have some lights, and they're using last I knew, for at least some of their smaller shows, they're using a TriCaster 40, so they can take this right to an event. It doesn't stay in the studio. Now, I'm not sure what they're actually using in the studio in Dallas, but it just shows you the functionality is you don't get stuck with a piece of gear that's just stuck in a rack. You can take this thing with you and go somewhere.
Yeah, I know Geekbeat TV, they have a TriCaster 855 in the studio. And then they have a TriCaster 40 that they take on the road to do shows. So you're right. I mean, and the cool thing is the graphics you make on that TriCaster 855 or the 860, just load them into the 40 so you bring your look. You keep the consistency and the branding and the style of your show. Now, the more portable TriCasters may not have all of the bells and whistles, but it is amazing how much power we put in there. Tim Jennison, our founder, he's always kind of had something he's always beaten into our heads in a very nice way, is that under promise and over deliver. And so we're always aggressively priced for what we do. We always add in more features than people expect, and it creates the loyal fan base that we've built here at Newtek.
What's kind of interesting is that I before the 40 was announced, I needed a more durable portable solution, and so really there wasn't the 40's exactly what I needed for my portability and going, to small events and traveling and doing my show. And it was, if it had been out when I needed it, I would have bought it. But I built, a system that has been less reliable, giving me more headache, doesn't travel well, costs me more money, is a pain in the butt to set up, and I invested all this cash, and then 3 months later the 40 comes out, and you're smashing yourself in the head because you're thinking, God, I just spent all this time wasted. And I told you earlier, I'm about efficiency, right? I wasted all this time building this system. And to me, someone that's considering, and I think this is very important, and this is just based on my experience, if you're considering building a studio or something that you want to go mobile, for me, the 40, from a feature standpoint, it's just about get you everything you need.
Right.
And it really does, because you just go ahead and try to duplicate some of this functionality with some of your competitors' software, and I'll say software, because if you buy their hardware, you're right into the big money again. But if you try to do it with just their software, you got to build everything around it. This is just take the box and go.
When I buy a car, I buy a complete car. I don't go buy a frame and drop in some quarter panels and an engine. I mean, sure, you can do it, but why do it?
Yeah.
And that's been our concept. With TriCaster, hardware can vary. I mean, just a revision of a motherboard can change things in software and how it works, or graphics card revision, or the drivers. And so that's why we went with that turnkey, more appliance-style workflow, is because we can control it. We can test for this hardware configuration. We can, all of our hardware we make, we know, it makes it so that it's a more reliable, more integrated system that is going to, do what you need it to do when you need it to do it, instead of, trying to roll your own, pieces together, and then every now and then, it comes back to bite you.
And one thing that I tell people all the time is so we're using the 860 here in the studio today, and we're woefully underusing it. I'm putting up some lower thirds once in a while and some stuff, but this thing has got a lot more functionality that could be employed. And so, but where I use that functionality is, here in the studio, I may not need everything that the TriCaster can do, but when I take it to an event, I employ all those extras, all the cool stuff that the 860 brings to the floor. So can you talk just a little bit about the progression through the systems, and maybe even go all the way up and talk about the 8000? Man, the 8000 is a wow machine, but it comes with a wow price, and probably is way outside of the price of most of the folks that would ever that listen to this specific show. But can you kind of walk through the progression of the product line?
Yes, the TriCaster 40 gives you 4 inputs. They are analog component. So that's the most affordable TriCaster, the easiest way to get. And then you add the 410, which now adds in the HD SDI, and then then you have the 460, which gives you the analog and the digital inputs. And then the 8, and that's 4. So the 40, 410, 460 all have 4 live inputs, 4 live cameras. Then you go into the 860 line, which actually allows you to have 8 cameras, and then the 8000 adds in a lot of really high-end features that like high-end networks would want, like a fail-safe system. So if you're doing a show of millions of dollars in sponsors, there's always redundancy. So with the TriCaster 8000, if you have 2 of them, they're linked together, it mirrors the other one. So TriCaster 1 could be going out to live television. TriCaster 2 is anything you do on 1 is being mirrored on 2. So there's features like that allow you to have more power, and it's more in line with what a traditional broadcaster would need, and it's in the range of the budgets that a traditional broadcaster would need. But like you said earlier, you start with the most affordable TriCaster. You could sit down on an 8000, and with just 30 minutes or so of training, you're running it.
Yeah, the interfaces, and I was going to actually show that on the screen. You look at the interface of the 8000, and then if I was actually to bring up the interface of the 40, and let's see here, where's the interface link? it's looks much the same and not as much stuff because you don't have
not as many bells and whistles, but it's a familiar workflow, and that's kind of what we brought to the TriCaster line, is a familiar workflow, so that no matter what TriCaster you learn on, you can be successful on any of the TriCaster family.
Now, one thing I will say is the unit that I built, that I travel with, the software that I'm using to do that starts with a W. And when I'm in hotel rooms, I do green screen. And one of the biggest thing that always bites me in the butt when I'm in a hotel room is getting the light right to be able to get a good key for green screen. And sometimes I get fuzzy around the edges or over here in the corner, and it just, I want to scream. And when you want green screen, you want it to work. And one thing that is cool about the TriCaster, and one thing I've always learned from the very beginning of using it, the green screen functionality of this thing is, it's rock solid. It'll key on almost anything, and you'll be able to get this nice. There's no wrinkles, there's no, fuzziness. Even in bad lighting situations, before I had nice lights in the studio, I never had a problem getting the, a good key. But also, you guys have brought in the live set features, and really what I could do, and I should have actually had it set up, I could transform this room into something much bigger. It would look like I was in a much bigger room because if I put the green screen up. Talk about the live sets a little bit.
Yeah, one of the challenges is chroma key, as you said, is hard to set up for most people. Lighting a chroma key wall is an art. You have to have perfectly smooth lighting, and so our CTO Andrew Cross really spent a lot of effort in making our keyers easy enough to set up that you don't have to be a broadcast engineer to do it, and you don't have to be a pro lighting guy to light the chroma key wall in order to pull a good key. And so we're seeing a lot more use of chroma key just because now we've made it easy. And then as you said, we do have the virtual sets. So any 3D software like Lightwave, you can make your own custom virtual sets. But this year we announced a new technology we're calling holographic virtual sets. And so with an iPhone, I can take my iPhone, do a panoramic photo of wherever I want to be a virtual set, and then through our virtual set editor, you can import that panoramic photo and turn it into a live virtual set. One of the jokes is if you could go onto the Tonight Show set and do a panoramic shot, next thing you know, you could be standing, where Jay Leno stands. Now, hopefully people don't do that, and they may get me in trouble for suggesting it. But, anywhere you go can be a live virtual set. And unlike some of the traditional virtual sets where they do look a little digital, it's a photograph. It looks as good as your iPhone photo would look.
Right. Another thing too is a lot of people I run some redundant record backups here just because I'm kind of anal in that, but technically you don't have to. Right now we're streaming to YouTube, and that's being done by the TriCaster. We're recording at the same time, and it's also going to save an audio recording. It's going to do audio, video. It's streaming. I'm pressing a button right now. I just took a picture of what was on the screen. It did a frame grab and dropped the picture on the system. Bringing in video, bringing in audio, bringing in stills. It's pretty powerful. And the thing I like is, sometimes I get rushed in doing a show, and I'll have the position of a graphic like that in the wrong spot, and really, for me, right there. And I'm live. I just changed that with, and I'm talking, and I did it right here with the little joystick. So the ability to change and shift things on the fly, I think, is what I like the best. Now, with a competitor software, I would have had to stop, made a change, repositioned it with my mouse, and it just, it just doesn't work for me for live. Now, if you have a fixed set where nothing's going to change, maybe you can, but right. I just love the diversity of being able to, change things up on the fly.
That's why Newtek has been so successful with the TriCasters. We've been doing this for 30 years almost. We have a lot of time in learning how to make live television easier. and what people need in live television. And our goal is to allow you to be a creator and less of a technician. We still leave the power under the hood where you can go in and get technical, but we just try to allow our customers and our cool friends of Newtek to just be creative and make the show they want to make.
And I think it's creativity, and I'm the first to admit, and I've said this many times, I'm not a graphics guy. When it comes to graphics, I outsource.
Nice.
And pay someone else to do that. But the TriCaster does come with tools so that basic things like creating a lower third, is all built right into the system. There's a little, actually they provide templates. I made my own little basic template for a lower third, but if I made a mistake in typing your name into the lower third, all I gotta do is reach over here to the keyboard and I can change, what I've made a mistake in it and fix the lower third on the fly. I don't have to go back into the system at all to make that edit. And that happens, when you're live, you get the information. Oh my God, we got the guy's name wrong. You bring it down, you edit it, and bring it back up, and you're good. But
right.
And I think that's one of the reasons too that I've always liked this product a lot.
Well, there's a reason we're number one now, and it's because we've empowered a lot of people to do some really cool things at prices that were previously unheard of. And as I said earlier, we under-promise and over-deliver, whether it's how we let customers upgrade for aggressive prices or our customer support or just when somebody buys a TriCaster, they realize how much power they got for that price. It's exciting. I mean, for me, working for Newtek, and I've been here 17 years, it's the easiest technology on the planet to sell because if somebody has a need to do television and they see it, this is what they want.
Yeah.
Rob, I'm going to let you jump in here in a second, but I want to share a story. I had a machine that had for a while. It was the 855 model. And every once in a while, the machine would just spontaneously reboot. And you've been on the show here where you come back and I would get this machine back online and you were waiting for it on Skype and you could hear me cussing in the background. And I basically reached out to their tech support folks and said, hey, I got this machine. It's got an issue. There's something wrong with it. And they're like, well, ship it back, and actually we'll ship you a new machine or a replacement machine. And you ship yours back and we'll let you know what was wrong with it. So, a couple days later, FedEx arrives with the replacement box. I stick it in the rack and send the machine back in, and it's like 2 weeks later, say, hey, Todd, we found this issue with your machine, and they actually told me what was wrong with the thing, and it ended up being a hardware issue. But what company is going to tell you what they found? Normally you get your replacement, and but you guys don't understand. To them, just send me a machine and me send one back. The customer support level on support is pretty much hands down. I've never seen a company, and again, I'm not being paid by Newtek. They have not. I paid for all my own hardware, just to be on the upfront here. The support has been incredible for their hardware. If there's ever been an issue, they've responded very, very quickly. And
no matter how much money you spend on equipment, somebody's going to have a problem sometime.
Right.
And, our founder and owner, Tim Jennison, one of the pieces of our culture that he's really ingrained into all of us is that, if there's a problem, over-deliver, take care of the customer, because anybody can be a great manufacturer when everything's going perfect. But when you really get to tell what type of company you're dealing with is when you have a problem and how they handle your problem. It's and that's one of the reasons. Before I worked for Newtek, I was a customer, and I had a problem with something one time, and Newtek over delivers. I mean, I became a fanatical customer because that's what creates fanatical customers is when there's a problem and they handle it in such a great way.
Yeah, and it's not cheap for them to do that. They could have said, send your machine back and we'll have it back to you in 2 weeks. That's what they could have said.
We can't always do that.
I know. I understand that. Yeah.
It's policy. We're not going to just overnight machines, but
right.
It just goes to show the culture of Newtek that we know. If somebody's in a bind, we try to do everything we can to help them.
Right. And they did, and it was too. I was in a bind. I had some heavy production stuff, and normally I wouldn't have mind sending it back and then going through the process. But still, the turnaround and anything's always been quick. Rob, I've been hogging here. Go ahead.
That's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to ask Phil if you're starting to see any filmmakers use the TriCaster to make films, or is the kind of use case for the TriCaster doesn't really fit in with the way filmmakers make films, or is there some kind of way that the TriCaster could be used to lower the cost of film production?
Well, there's a couple angles that we've seen. One is there's a lady in New York City named Catherine Velvel Jones who is an actress, does theater, and she's bringing live theater to the web and using TriCaster to do live. She also did a live drama where instead of shooting a scripted show, she actually planned it, blocked it, and then did a multi-camera live show that was, a drama. And we're seeing that. Also, we're seeing people like, we did a show with Jerry Lewis where, it was a live event in Vegas at the Orleans Hotel, his 87th birthday party, produced by Jimmy Osmond. And instead of shooting multiple cam and then going into edit, they actually did a live switch with the TriCaster, and when they finished the show, they had a live line cut almost ready to go to PBS. So in traditional film, I'm not seeing it yet, but it really comes down to the type of story that someone wants to tell, and is it something that could be told in a live way? Because if it can be told as a live show, then you can use TriCaster. It's going to save you money, save you time, and give you a lot of flexibility.
Or is it possible that may be a new TriCaster product that could be made that could help a filmmaker have a multi-camera angle type of recording situation that's mobile enough that could follow it on location and those kind of things? I don't know.
We're actually being used on location, but it's not like producing a 2-hour movie. I mean, our chroma key is so good. We've seen people taking us on set to do green screen previews and things like that, where they can really get an idea if this shot's going to work. But doing a 2-hour movie or 1.5-hour movie on a TriCaster live, we haven't really seen.
Yeah, I think, Rob, if you're doing like a reality show with fixed camera positions and no camera crew, you probably, this would be a great product. But if you're, if you need a guy that's got the camera in someone's face, I don't know, it probably wouldn't work.
With wireless technology and things like Teradek and that, you can get away from the wires a little bit. But so you could do a live reality. But going back to traditional feature film, I haven't seen much interest or even discussion in that angle.
So what do you think the future holds for the whole space? I know that there's a lot of, you guys have got some competition out there now that are, obviously, and I always like to say chasing you down. So I know that you guys always have to stay very innovative, and I know you can't talk about upcoming releases, but any thoughts of where the space may be headed?
Well, it's good to have people nipping at your heels and wanting to knock you off the top of the hill, and that keeps us sharp. But I mean, if you look at the power that was included in our the recent TriCaster line update, where we went from the 855 to the 860 and the 455 to the 460, you see the power and workflow that we've implemented, and we're staying ahead. I mean, we've added capability to control robotic cameras.
Yep.
So now we've added capability to do, in some of the TriCasters, to do the macros and the MIDI control. So, where is it going? It's hard to say. I can't talk about our development, where that's going next. But, we definitely are not resting, waiting for people to catch up to us. We're going to continue to innovate, be the leader, and set the tone, and be the company that everybody's chasing.
Can you talk a little bit about the third-party initiatives? Because I know that was big over this past year.
That's actually a way that we've allowed a lot of power to come into the TriCaster is through our third-party developer, our Newtek developer network. I think we have over 30 third-party developers now, and integrating companies like Chiron and AJA routers, and you have streaming encoders, and you have graphic systems like the Graphic Outfitters. They invent a way to just take an old cheesy little camera pointed at the clock, and they do optical recognition of the clock to create real-time graphics. A lot of capability, newsroom automation, so that it can integrate into the big news associations and newsrooms where the producers do an outline of the news and your graphics are automatically being updated live in the TriCaster. Our third-party developer program is robust, and that's something that really separates us from any of our competitors is just how much power can be added into the TriCaster using third-party tools.
I think there was a time when I was talking with a company, and they had, their product wasn't too bad, but it was missing a couple of key components. And I kept telling them, please, if you're going to take this thing to the next level, you need to talk to this integration with this other company so that when I do this, that happens. And it's on it's hard to do. And so the feedback I got from them was, quite frankly, less than appreciative. And I haven't upgraded since that discussion on any of their software products, because they have their own agenda, and and it seems like they don't want to listen to the user base. One thing it sounds like I'm a Newtek fan. I am, because I go to the forums and I say, man, it would be nice if we could do this. And one of the reps would come back and say, okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. Probably what it is, it goes on a big list. And then, and stuff, obviously, with any company, will get racked and stacked, and can it be done? But, stuff that I've wanted from years past, it may not be out the next month, but I've seen, like, all of a sudden, like 9 months later, a little incremental upgrade. I'm like, oh, I can do that now. And, so I think, that there's a pretty active user base that's basically telling Newtek this is where we want it to go, and they listen. And so many companies just don't listen, and it drives me nuts. And so where do I spend my money? I spend my money where people listen.
It goes back to our founder Tim Jennison. Some companies make the product that they want to make. Other companies like Newtek make the product that our customers want to use. And that really is what it boils down to. I mean, our third-party developer network, opening up your technology to third parties is not easy.
Right.
But it's the right thing to do, because our clients need a solution, and we want to deliver that solution instead of just telling it's too hard. So that's the Newtek way, is we deliver tools that people need and want. Instead of making something and forcing you into our workflow, we give you the workflow that you want, and that's why we've been so successful. That's why we are number one, and that's why we're out selling Sony and Panasonic and a lot of this traditional gear, and that's why we feel that we'll stay the leader in this industry for quite a long time, because we listen to our customers. I mean, our engineers go into those forums and read those posts. I mean, name another company in any, that you could go in and you could actually get a message from the CTO and the guy that architects all this technology.
Right.
That doesn't happen.
No.
Whether you're an Apple fan or a Windows fan, make a suggestion on the forums there and see if you ever hear anything. You don't.
Right.
Even on some of the smaller companies, you just don't get access to the geniuses like you get with Newtek, and that's why we do so well. I can name, there's so many features that get added into the product that you can almost name the customers that asked for it.
Right.
And I hate to say this, I'm kind of coming up to a hard stop. I know you guys have some more things to discuss, but I'm going to have to drop off in just a minute because I'm here and I've got a meeting coming up.
No worries.
And I may have to sneak out on you.
So, Rob, any final questions for Philip before he has to blast?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's any thought around trying to build in video call capability into the TriCaster. So I know it's a pain point for a lot of broadcasters to be able to do a show like what we're doing. I know Todd has a lot of equipment and a lot of extra computers and all this stuff to be able to take in video calls over the over the network. Is there any thought about or capability, or is it a resource issue in the TriCaster to be able to integrate more Skype type capabilities into the box?
We've had clients using that since almost the beginning of TriCaster, and they've had to be creative in how they did it. We do have the capability through IVGA, which is basically our scan converter through Ethernet. So if you have a laptop with something running on that laptop through Ethernet, you can bring that in as a live source, and you have multiple sources into TriCaster. But we're always looking at ways to make it better.
Well, I
know that one other thing is the duplex capability of the audio. I know, like on this show, it's difficult for us to crosstalk, and was just wondering if there's any thoughts on those topics as well.
Our thoughts are that we know all our customers, many of our customers are using that, and we're trying to always find elegant solutions that will work. We're always trying new things, and then if it works, it gets rolled into the product. If not, we keep working. So, I don't really have any comments I can make about anything coming, but it's something we know is needed, and we're always looking at ways that we might be able to make it easier for our customers to make their show that they dream of making.
Philip, folks want to ask you questions offline. Where can they email you at?
You can email me. My Twitter handle is @PhilipNelson, which is actually on the screen. Or, Newtek's a pretty open place. Nothing's a secret. So if you want to drop me a personal email, my email address is Philip with one L, PHILIP, @Newtek, NEWTEK.com. And I hate to say it, I'm sitting here with about 3,000 emails in my inbox, so it may take me a while to get back to you, but I may forward it along, and I'll try to answer any questions any of your listeners or your viewers or your fans have about our technology. Because we're very passionate about what we do, and we love what you do. You make us look great every time you do a show.
Well, thanks for spending some time with us, and I know you've got some things with your music career going on, and if you want to pitch your music stuff, please do, and then I know you got a blast.
If you want to check out my music, my website for that is philipnelsonmusic.com, and that's Philip with one L, and I've got some music that just got featured in a movie that's coming out this spring. It's called My Dog the Champion, and it's Lance Henriksen, which if you're a fan of Aliens, you'll know him as Bishop. And he was also the star of Millennium. One of the other stars is from the TV show Friday Night Lights, and the little brother from Hannah Montana is in that movie. And my song is called In Your Arms, I'm Home. And I just found out this week that they've decided to use my song in the movie trailer, so I'm very excited about that. So yeah, a lot of good things happen. And that's one of the things about Newtek is it's such a crazy blend of characters, and they really encourage us to have fun, work hard, and play hard. And I think it reflects in just the attitude of our company. And we don't have customers, we have friends. We all work together, and we all succeed together. And that's why I've been there 17 years. It's a place where I can really have a great time and do amazing things and help people do amazing things.
You know the best thing about having your music in a movie?
What?
Ka-ching! So, congratulations, and I know you're in Vegas talking about some stuff there, but thanks for being with us, Philip. I really appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate what you do. The show looks great, and I'm honored. I appreciate it. I can't even talk. I'm so excited.
Okay.
I appreciate being on the show, and I'm honored that you guys would put up with me for an hour and 23 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Have a good
Take care,
day,
Phil.
Take care.
Thanks.
There's one guy that has more energy than anyone I've ever seen. He's
out of control. All right, guys, I'm dropping off.
Take care.
See you later.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care.
Hey, this weekend I'm going to be jamming with Todd Rundgren at a secret show.
Oh,
awesome.
have fun.
So that's kind of one of the things I'm working on. But I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
take care. Yep.
That's why they call him the chief relationship officer.
Relationship officer, yes, that's right. Yeah. And he served a lot of other roles at Newtek over the many years that he's there. I think he was VP of sales and marketing and things like that. So he's got he's held a lot of different types of positions at the company, and he goes way back. I mean, he was a big supporter of the podcaster community early on with the TriCaster too. He went to a lot of events, and I've known Phil for a long time.
And really, and I probably should have said this earlier, the TriCaster 40 was a direct result of many of us saying, hey, with your other product line, you're getting beyond the scope of what most new media creators can afford.
Yeah,
you're getting to the point where they can't buy that product. It's just out of their price range. Now, even though the 40 is expensive, if you do the math and if you sit down and really look at how much it costs you to buy, let's say you buy Wirecast, and then you got to build a system around that. The next thing you know, you're at $7,000. It's or 8 or 10, based upon. And you can put up a webcam or something, but if you're building a true 4-channel system, you're going to have some money into that system, and with laptops and everything else that goes along with it. Yeah,
it is true that the TriCaster is the standard now, right? That's the standard bearer of doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, everyone pretty much chases them. And although their competition has gotten a lot heavier.
It has,
and it's a good thing, and I think it keeps them moving. And I talk with Don, and he's working with a variety of companies, and some of the stuff that he's working with the companies. There's some of their product line. They're coming out. They've got a product that basically is built for the sports system for replay, and there's a lot of competition right now in the replay space. So that's going to it already has. It forced them to lower the price of their replay system, and so it's good for guys like you and me that are looking at different options for gear. But that 40, it's just like, and that thing came out, it's like crap, because and then that box I built is still functional, it still works great, but I've went through 2 or 3 different shipping cases. It's been a challenge. So, but anyway.
So do you still use it?
I do. When I travel, I do. Yeah, I take it. But we're getting ready to go to Vegas. We're gonna, I'll pull out the TriCaster out of the rack and take the, basically the switcher here. We've got monitors and stuff that are already basically in place, that are already set. Well, they're basically will be shipped into Vegas from another mainland location, but basically the studio will be recreated in Vegas with lights and a jib and everything. So it's not necessarily a small endeavor, but that we're getting a little better at efficient in how we know what to take and what not to take.
Yeah. So anything new that you're seeing in the podcasting space here over the last couple of weeks, or anything kind of
Winamp? Winamp is
Winamp. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rob, rumor that Microsoft might buy Winamp.
Well, the only thing I can really say about that, I think it's an interesting situation. There's no question. But if you really think back, and really look at where Microsoft is kind of in that area, they do have the Windows Media Player live streaming guide that's been around since the early days of the streaming media area. That's still active. If you go to windowsmedia.com. You can see where they already have a pretty extensive live streaming catalog of content today already. So I think it is an interesting situation that the America Online folks, it doesn't really fit with their strategy, I think, currently to have Shoutcast and Winamp. But if you think about Winamp, it does kind of have Windows in the name, so it is kind of an interesting thing. I don't really have any inside information on what's really going on, but I would prefer to see that brand continue and to be linked up with Windows. I think live streaming radio, I think, has a future, and you can see it in other apps too. Go ahead.
Another thing too is they've got a podcasting back end.
They do, though it's actually sourced from MediaFly, which is not necessarily a what I would consider kind of a huge player in the space. So their catalog, I've looked at their catalog. It's not the most up to date catalog. But I mean, it is an interesting, kind of compilation of live streaming and podcasting into one app, right? You don't see that often out there. And I think it's a sign, like you put out, that this Pandora connection that you have in talking about podcasting, and I know that Pandora's been pressured to kind of add talk content, and I'm seeing that more, tune in, and you're seeing these other platforms, the iHeartRadio folks adding podcasts, which I don't know if you knew, but the Spreaker folks opened up a submission web form here in the last week to allow podcasters to just add their podcast feed to Spreaker, and all you have to do is do it once, and they did. Francesco, who was on this show, said that they were looking at the possibility of making that feed active in their system, so you wouldn't have to upload individual episodes after you submitted your feed. Well, it sounds like they've enabled where they're going to continuously pull from your feed, so you won't have to do a separate upload now.
Well, maybe he had some takeaways from our conversation. Maybe.
I think that's probably true. So it's going to be a lot easier now for podcasters to get their content into iHeartRadio now. Through this pass through.
Are you talking with iHeartRadio, or is it still through Spreaker folks?
Spreaker is their conduit. Yeah. So, if you're a podcaster and you want to get into iHeartRadio, you need to submit your feed through a web form that they have. And I think you can get to it after you create an account with Spreaker.
Right.
That gets you access to the submission form. You just drop your RSS feed into that, and they will continuously pick up your new episodes from here on, and hopefully you'll get picked up by iHeartRadio. I'm not sure how that specific process works, but I think they did take our advice.
Oh, good. I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
And it definitely will make it easier for them to scale, too.
Yeah.
So that's good. Oh, I saw that announcement came out. I've been down to head buried all week. I was just joking about it on my show the other night. Here's my 4 pages of to-do list, and about 20, I'm about 75% blacked out for getting stuff done. But
yeah, that's a lot to do to get ready for CES.
Well, it's not just CES; it's everything else that's going on in the space. It's business stuff too. So it's it's just nonstop, and overdue on some reporting. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. The rest of the afternoon is lovely spreadsheet stuff, which sucks.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, one of the topics that kind of sprung up this week in the podcast area is around the need for better discovery of shows, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's your topic that you threw out there about Pandora, I think, is a sign of that, right? And Swell, and so there are some solutions that are kind of bubbling up in these areas. But I do agree that discovery and creating personal playlists and these kind of concepts gets us a little closer to more of a personalized radio solution around podcasting, and I think that is an important piece of this, and it gets back to simplicity too, right?
Yep.
Of making it easier for people to sample the content, get into the content quickly, especially in their car, and do it safely. And I think that's like the big next evolutionary jump that needs to happen. So, like we talked about earlier in the show, making money is a big piece still. And then I think the content discovery piece and making that better, I think, is the other big frontier that we still need to get better in.
There were some questions in the chat room. It says, not knowing anything about Newtek, does it support Google Hangouts? No, it's not a Google Hangout. It's a true you basically, it's just like this broadcast we're pushing with a TriCaster, and basically I can switch through multiple cameras. I can bring up Rob. If I need to, I can bring up an Apple TV, bring up a monitor.
Or an iPad or something.
Yeah, right? Bring up. Yeah, so it does some of this. It basically Hangouts is, allows you to bring a bunch of people in. How I bring Rob in, how he's here is he's on Skype, and I've got that video patched in. Let's see here. It says, Todd did some Hangouts a while back. I think it supports anything that you can run on a computer screen. Todd should be watching the comments. Oh, yeah. So they're basically saying I need to be watching. But, Hangouts are great if you don't have, if you just have a webcam. There's no, it's a great way to do a multi-person chat. Quality's not quite where I want it to be, but it's gotten a lot better with time.
Yeah, and I think that these boxes, like a TriCaster, need to do a better job of integrating these video call capabilities, because there's a lot of content providers that are using the TriCaster to do that, and it just makes this complex solution that has to be built around the TriCaster. That it seems like we're getting to a point now where the capability of processors now should enable all these things to be able to run simultaneously inside a particular solution, right?
I think part of it is that they're doing an incredible amount of stuff with the processor already, with all the extra stuff. So just that extra overhead is probably pretty expensive from a resource standability. But they've made it easier to get the video in. You can network it in now. You don't necessarily have, and basically I could change if I ever go through and update the studio again, I could actually basically bring you in via what's called IVGA or a network connection, and it sends it.
It's an IP solution.
It's an IP solution. Yeah. Instead of a wired solution.
Yeah, and I think that's where we need to get to with this stuff. And I think full duplex is another big weakness that exists also. And I know back when I was taking calls with my radio show, I had it was like it's called a digital hybrid.
Right. I've got one back here.
And it had full duplex capability in it, which basically makes it sound like you're in a studio with the other person and you're plugged into the same mixer. You can crosstalk, you can do all that kind of stuff. With even this show, it's difficult for two people to talk at the same time. Not that you necessarily want to do that a lot, but it does kind of drop out one person over another.
Yeah, and, you should be able to hear, though. If I'm talking and Philip had been talking, you should have been able to hear both of us the way this one's wired. You shouldn't, and if it is, it's maybe I've got the levels a little wrong, but you should be able to hear both of us at the same time. And it might be just because I'm pushing back louder and it over drowns the other person.
Could be, yeah. So.
Well, anyway, anything else in space you've been hearing this week?
No, not necessarily. I think that the issues that I mentioned earlier are pretty much the latest. What's also interesting is that some of the up and coming networks that I thought were going to launch and aggregators haven't yet gotten off the ground yet, and I think it's an interesting. I'm not sure why. Some of them haven't lifted off yet. So I don't know if it's a monetization issue or what it is, but I think we're just in a really kind of transitionary phase with podcasting right now. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of video podcasts really start to drop off the map now.
It's hard work, Rob. This is not an easy. This is not an easy business. If it was, everyone would be doing it.
Well, no, but I think what's really happening is that people, there's fewer and fewer video content providers that are thinking of podcasting, and they're just doing it on YouTube, and I think that momentum is just accelerating. This past week I had to go through and pull out just a bunch of video shows from the Windows Phone catalog that have gone dark.
Wow. And I think too is that it's much more expensive to do audio. YouTube's free. And if they're not making much money and they have to pay, we get folks all the time. They can send me a quote. I'm like, yeah, you're much bandwidth. It's going to be $2,800 a month, and it's just like they about choke.
Like what? What?
Yeah, and if the guy's a hobbyist and he's got a popular show and he's not making no money, that's a deal killer.
So I think the big Uber trend is that podcasting is becoming an audio medium. And I think
that's where the money's at.
Yeah, and that's what I think the end game. I think it's going to take a couple of years before everybody drops out, and there may be still people that see the space as an opportunity to kind of get off the ground, right? But once they get popular, they're going to shift over to YouTube.
Well, one thing that is still the driving factor that I believe is going to continue to change the landscape is you have to be on these set-top boxes. You still have to be on the Roku, the Boxee. You still have to be on Samsung Smart TV, LG, Chromecast, Google TV. Yeah. You have to be there if because where's the audience shifting? Yeah,
that's true. But it probably gets back to what app that you're in and how popular that app is, right?
That's true, but I still think in order for discovery and for distribution, you got to be on those platforms. And if you just want to be a YouTube monkey and be on YouTube, that's fine. It's free, so you can't beat free.
Yeah.
Any day of the week, and I understand it, but I think it's short-sighted of folks not to distribute everywhere else. But that's my opinion. Of course, I'm privy a little bit more to the numbers than most people are. So I think it's a mistake because the growth is still there on these other devices. And if you drop your video coverage, you're not going to get, you're leaving out a chunk of an audience that you could have otherwise. But maybe it's worth, maybe the cost. Maybe they say, well, it's worth me losing 10% of my audience. So,
yeah, and I wonder if there's a solution coming from some other company or some technology that will cut down on the cost of delivering video in a more open format.
It's still bits and it's still dimes to move stuff, So it's not it's not inexpensive. No matter any way you look at it.
But I guess the question is, will it get less expensive or
I don't know.
over time?
Yeah. If someone comes up with a BitTorrent way to
well, that's a technology solution to the problem, right?
Right. Some of us did that early on, but there just wasn't enough adoption for it.
Well, and it had such a bad reputation.
Yeah.
And I believe it still does, and I think that holds it back. I think.
Probably you're right. All right, Rob, we need to bounce.
Right.
Folks, you can reach Rob or I here at the New Media Show at todd@newmediashow.com or rob@newmediashow.com. Of course, on Twitter, you can follow me at Geek News. You can follow Rob at Rob Greenlee. Rob, what am I missing here? Oh, what's coming up on we're not going to have a show after Thanksgiving. So
nope.
We're scheduled for December 7th. Have we got anybody locked in yet? Are we still looking at that?
Yeah, I've got a couple of invites out, but I can't really announce anybody confirmed yet. So,
okay. So we'll
have to do that.
We won't be here next Saturday, but what we want you to do is on your Thanksgiving weekend, we want you to load up all our previous episodes and download those and take those with you while you're in the car. And get your wife and kids educated on the new media space by listening to this podcast for your 4 and 5 hour commutes to Grandma's house or wherever you may be headed. Carry us with you on the airplane. You can subscribe to the show very easily by coming over to newmediashow.com. You'll find the link in the website. And but anyway, just find us on iTunes. Get subscribed. That's another way. Or the Zune. Not Zune, the Windows Phone.
Yeah. Well, the Zune software, what's really interesting about the whole Zune software thing is that this past week, they've removed the ability to transact for paid content in the Zune software. But those experiences are still going to be there. So you can still browse the movies and TV and music, but you just can't buy anything.
That's funny.
It is. And the podcast area is going to be the only active, fully functioning area of the software. So what's funny about it is that the Zune software has become I like to call it the Zune podcasting software is what I like to call it, because that's basically what it's become.
Did you buy an Xbox One?
Not yet. No, I have a Xbox 360 that I'm perfectly happy with for now.
Yeah, that
so.
that $500 price point is. Ew.
Yeah, there's a few other things that I'd rather buy here in the short run.
Yeah.
And that would be a 1520 Lumia phone, which is a brand new 6-inch screen.
Wow.
It's probably the largest phone phablet on the market. I mean, physically the largest, but I've got really, really big hands, and big pockets. So I think I'm gonna get the 1520. I think. Yeah, I already have the 1020, so I'm gonna have to still get it.
Well, I'm considering putting a flat screen TV back there.
You are?
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm going to put all the stuff that's in that current cabinet, but that is my contemplation on my only studio upgrade for the year, is to buy a flat screen TV to put back there. But again,
well, you've been talking about doing a whole studio remodel, but you haven't pulled the trigger on it yet.
Yeah, and you just got to watch the pennies. Make sure it's in the budget. And I'm hopefully that someone will come up with some ridiculous deal that I can't resist, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's to put the right screen back there is going to be a little bit tricky to get the everything. There's a whole bunch of factors that are going to go into it, and then we'll have to have a table underneath, and yeah. So we'll see what happens. But for now, it's fine.
So what would you actually use that screen for?
Oh, I could put different backgrounds on it, logos. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we could do on that. Have a lot. We could have it's just almost like a point of sale type thing. But it'll have to be. I'm still trying to figure out if it'll work. And I don't see too many people that have big screen TVs in their sets. You got to worry about glare, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that you have to worry about. So. Yeah,
I know that. Callie, with her show, she uses a big flat screen in the production of her show.
Yeah, they have.
So you might talk to her about how she maybe.
They have multiple screens. They have a.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's because she stands up and does her show, so I don't know how to work.
You're not going to stand up and do the show for an hour and a half?
No, not happening. I have to readjust everything in the studio.
Todd, you could get a treadmill and you could just walk on the treadmill for the hour and a half that we do the show, right?
Yeah, and I'd be sweating like a pig. That would probably not be good. Oh, have the switcher up there on the jiggling that thing. I'm sure that would work well. All right, Rob, take care.
All right.
We'll see everybody.
Take care, Todd.
Thanks for being here. Take care.
Thanks.
And aloha.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Okay, let me refresh. YouTube doesn't want to shut down. Let me refresh the page. Oh, yes, that user. All right, now we'll stop it.